Hello, friends, and welcome back to Her Strength in Him, the podcast where we explore what it means to live out God's plan for our lives with boldness, faith, and grace. I'm your host, V, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. It's February, it's a brand new month, and I love brand new months because it's like a brand new start. Well, I feel like that every Monday anyway, but I think that Puxatawny Phil's prediction does not apply to Arizona because we are forecasted to be in the 80s for the next couple of days. Yeah, that's not winter here. Anywho, this season we're diving into marriage through biblical lenses, unpacking the stories of couples in the Bible and the truths that their relationships reveal about God's design for marriage. And have you ever thought about how loyalty and redemption can completely change someone's life, even for generations to come? It's amazing how one faithful decision can shape the future. Today, we're looking at the story of Boaz and Ruth, a beautiful example of how God's redemptive plan unfolds through loyalty, faithfulness, and of course, love. And as we unpack their love story, we'll see how it beautifully reflects Jesus, our ultimate Redeemer, the one who brings hope, healing, and restoration to all of us. Now, before we continue, I do encourage you to go and read the book of Ruth. It is 4 short chapters, but I'm not going to read all 4 chapters here today, but I do encourage you to go and read it. We'll pick out a few verses here to discuss. And before we jump into Boaz and Ruth's love story, let's take a quick moment to get to know them just a little bit better. Now, the book of Ruth is a short but powerful story in the Old Testament that highlights God's providence, faithfulness, and redemption. It begins with Naomi, a woman from Bethlehem, who moves to Moab with her husband and 2 sons due to a famine. Now, sadly, Naomi's husband and both of her sons pass away, leaving her and her daughters-in-law Orpah and Ruth as widows. Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem, and Ruth, in an incredible act of loyalty to her mother-in-law, insists on staying with her, declaring, "Your people will be my people, and your God my God." Once in Bethlehem, Ruth begins working in the fields to provide for Naomi. She happens to glean in the fields of Boaz, a wealthy and kind man who is also a relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz notices Ruth's dedication and ensures she's protected and provided for. As the story unfolds, Naomi encourages Ruth to seek out Boaz as a kinsman-redeemer, someone who could marry her and restore their family's legacy. Boaz, being an honorable man, willingly steps into this role, and their union leads to the birth of Obed, who becomes the grandfather of King David. Ruth's story is one of faithfulness, obedience, and God's provision. Even in the midst of loss and uncertainty, she remained steadfast, and in the end, she became part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. Then there's Boaz, successful, well-respected, and a man of great integrity. When Ruth came to glean in his fields, Boaz didn't just notice her hard work. He recognized her character, her loyalty to Naomi, and her faith in God. There are 2 words that stand out in this story: redemption and loyalty. And let me tell you, these themes are just as powerful in our lives today as they were back then. First, let's look at redemption. In those times, the role of a kinsman-redeemer was to marry a widow and preserve the family line of her deceased husband. This wasn't just about marriage. It was about restoring honor and security and hope to a family that had experienced deep loss. Boaz didn't have to redeem Ruth. He chose to. That's what makes his love story with Ruth so incredible. This act of redemption restored Ruth and Naomi, giving them a future that otherwise seemed lost. Think about that for a moment. God places people in our lives who help restore what we thought was gone. Sometimes it's a spouse, sometimes a friend, or sometimes it's an unexpected opportunity. When we remain faithful like Ruth, God has a way of writing redemption into our stories too. Second, there's loyalty. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi was the foundation of her meeting Boaz. But loyalty wasn't just about staying, it was about serving, trusting, and remaining steadfast in a new place, among new people. And Boaz's loyalty to God's law and his family ensured he fulfilled the kinsman-redeemer role with integrity. Their faithfulness to one another created a legacy that extended far beyond their lives. Their son, Obed, became the grandfather of King David, placing them directly in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Loyalty and redemption, they go hand in hand. We often see redemption unfold in our lives when we remain steadfast in faith, even when the path isn't clear. Now, what's amazing is that Boaz's role as a redeemer is just a small glimpse of what Jesus has done for us. Just like Ruth, we were in a place of need, spiritually empty, nothing to offer, but Jesus, in his love, stepped in, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He saw us in our brokenness, and he chose to redeem us by giving his life on the cross. Boaz's love and redemption brought Ruth into the family of God's chosen people. In the same way, Jesus invites us into his family, restoring our identity, our purpose, and our hope. What I love about this comparison is that Jesus didn't just redeem us from a distance. He became one of us. Just as Boaz entered into Ruth's world, understanding her struggles and acting on her behalf, Jesus stepped into our world, taking on our burdens, feeling what we feel, and still offering us a love that restores and transforms. Their marriage reminds us of the depth of Christ's love and his faithfulness to those who seek him. If Boaz was willing to love and redeem Ruth, how much more does Jesus, our perfect Redeemer, love and redeem us? So, how does this apply to us today? Well, whether you're married or you're single, there's something to learn from Boaz and Ruth. First, redemption and loyalty are powerful forces in a marriage. Think about this. How often do we extend grace and redemption to our spouse? Marriage isn't about perfection. It's about walking through life together and choosing love even in difficult moments, which I know it can be tough to do. But when Boaz married Ruth, he didn't focus on her past or where she came from. He saw her faithfulness and her character. Imagine how much stronger our marriages could be if we focused on loving and redeeming each other daily. What are some ways that you and your spouse can stand strong together, even when things get tough? Because let's face it, things will get tough. It's just a fact of life. How can you bring healing and restoration into your marriage? And for my single Pringles, Ruth wasn't out chasing a husband. She was just being faithful where God placed her. And that is so key. Instead of focusing on finding the perfect person, what if we focused on being faithful in the season that we're in? See, God didn't forget Ruth, and he won't forget you. How can you cultivate a heart of loyalty and trust in God's provision, even as you wait for his plans to unfold? The choices that you make today, the way that you love God and the way that you love others now, that's what lays the foundation for the relationship God has in store for you. Think about that. No matter where you are, remember that God is always at work, redeeming, restoring, and weaving together something beautiful to those who trust in him. Now, here are 3 powerful scriptures from Ruth's story and what they teach us today. First, we're going to read Ruth chapter 1, verse 16. And it says, "But Ruth said, 'Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God.'" This verse shows Ruth's unwavering faith and commitment. True loyalty comes from a heart that trusts in God even when the future is uncertain. So in our relationships, whether in marriage, whether it's family or friendships, we must choose loyalty not just out of duty, but out of love. Just like Ruth, we can be intentional about sticking by the people that God has placed in our lives. Next, we're going to read Ruth chapter 2, verse 12. And it says, "May the Lord reward your work, and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge." Boaz recognized Ruth's faithfulness, and he assured her that God sees and rewards those who trust in him. Sometimes we don't see immediate results for our faithfulness, but God sees. Whether you're serving, you're giving, or trusting in a tough season, be encouraged. God is your rewarder. Okay, and the last verse we're going to look at from the book of Ruth is going to be in chapter 4, verse 14. And it says, "Then the woman said to Naomi, 'Blessed is the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today, and may his name become famous in Israel.'" Just as Boaz redeemed Ruth, Jesus is our ultimate redeemer. He never leaves us without hope. No matter how lost or how broken we feel, Jesus is always ready to redeem our situation. When things seem uncertain, we can take refuge in knowing that our Redeemer is always near. Okay, so as we wrap up, I hope you enjoyed this episode and that it's encouraged you to trust in God's timing, to remain faithful where you are, and to embrace the redemption and loyalty that He has for each of us. No matter what season you're in, God is always working for your good and His glory. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections with me on the socials at Facebook at Her Strength in Him or on Instagram at Her Strength Podcast. And don't forget to do all the things: comment, share, follow, subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me on Her Strength in Him. Now, let's go out and live as a reflection of His strength in us. Until next time, friends.